Welcome to the Postpartum Coach podcast, where we embrace our needs as moms, we learn to lead ourselves first, then our families, and where we create our own healing from the inside out to find our way to the work we were meant to do in this world. I'm your host, a fellow mom of 3 and a certified life coach, Lizzie Langston. Hi, my loves. Hello, everybody. Welcome to any guests, anybody who's new. I'm so happy to have you. I'm holding out my arms for like a big virtual hug, or if you're not into hugging people you haven't really gotten to know, I'll give you like an air high five. So yeah, my name's Lizzie. Hi, I am the postpartum coach and I'm really happy to be here. I am in beautiful Costa Rica. That's where I live with my fam. I have 3 kids, ages almost 8 down to age 4, and a cute husband with a reddish beard. And yeah, we're from Colorado, but we're here in Costa Rica to focus on healing, to enjoy the beautiful humidity, beaches, and just nature. It's good stuff. So just finished raining, and I'm down here recording podcasts kind of late at night while my kids are sleeping, because that's how it goes when you have little kids, is sometimes nighttime's the best time. How are you doing? Where does this episode find you today? In one sentence, how would you describe how your day is going? Take a minute. What would that be? And more importantly than maybe a sentence in your brain is, what are you feeling in your body? Have you checked into your body for a while? Do you think that's weird? Are you new here and maybe you're like, what do you mean go into my body? So just so you know, your body has all the answers for healing, and calming your body is the first step to bouncing back from depression and managing and calming anxiety. So we want to be in our body is actually a really great place to learn how to be comfortable and to learn how to love. Okay, before I dive in and talk about brain chemicals and all the old research around brain chemicals, I wanted to just go ahead and tell you that I have a unique opportunity that is a sort of a standalone 3-day mental health boot camp I'm doing. So I want to tell you about it. It's November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of 2021. So that's just in a couple weeks from the time that this episode is live. And we are going to be spending an hour and a half together in the late morning of each day for 3 days, November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. That's a Monday, Tuesday, and a Wednesday. So kicking off the month of November, I'm pretty stoked about how it's not quite into the holiday season, but it is after October, which is a little bit, October 31st, Halloween. And so I really just want to kind of give you a nice soft spot to come get some massive support for your mental health throughout the holiday season and also just postpartum. In the boot camp, by the way, if you're interested in it, just go to LizzieLangston.com/bootcamp, and I will put that link in the show notes of today's episode. But at the boot camp, you are going to basically, in day 1, we're really tearing down all of the fake news and the old research and the old sort of wives' tales that literally are told to you by other wives or by your mom, your mother-in-law, your grandma, outdated stuff that's not true, that's really muddying the pool of mental health postpartum. So we're going to get really straight, really clear on that in day 1, kind of whip your postpartum stuff, your mental health stuff into shape. And then the 2nd and 3rd day, we're going to do deep dives on each: anxiety, day 2, and depression, day 3. So come bring your struggles, bring the hard questions. I will be opening it to questions and coaching. We're going to have live coaching and questions for those participants that want to be sharing and asking those. Of course, if you just like to watch others do that stuff, that's totally fine too. This is a paid event, and we're going to treat it like a paid event, meaning we're really taking good care of you. So there's a private Facebook group for those of us that are going to be going to the boot camp, for me and my assistant and anybody of you guys that wants to come. There's a downloadable printable workbook, and there's going to be, like I said, support in the Facebook group, live coaching, question and answers, as well as my time and attention and delivery of the stuff that you need to, number one, get really clear and confident in exactly how you heal depression and or anxiety postpartum. And then number two, feel like you really have some good momentum going that you can kind of take it and run with it. And of course, if you want to keep the momentum up and have more support, I'll be talking to you at the end of the event about my membership, the Postpartum Coach membership, but that's optional. So this is a standalone event. It's not committing you to the membership. It's not committing you to me in any way other than your healing for 3 days straight, deep diving workbooks and all. I'm so excited. LizzieLangston.com/bootcamp. Okay, let's talk about brain chemicals and postpartum depression. And I'm going to go ahead and extend that to brain chemicals and postpartum anxiety. What's true? What's not true? Really, let's get down to it. And by the way, I wanted to do this episode leading up to boot camp because I wanted to give you a taste of this is the sort of conversation we're going to be having in boot camp. But we're not just going to be talking about brain chemicals. We'll also cover hormones and low sleep and some of the other things that sort of we start to want to focus on in our recovery of our mental health, but they're actually just distractions to the real underlying root of why we develop these symptoms postpartum. And so it's really important that we give some time and attention to looking at what's not true so that it can be replaced by truth, because knowledge is power, my friends. Knowledge is power, right? Okay, so back in the day, we're talking in the mid 1900s, somewhere between the 20s and the 60s. I seriously don't remember the year. There was some early research done on depression. And basically, there were people who were depressed who were in a hospital, and they took and what are now our antidepressant medications today that they were using for other purposes. And they just experimented, and they're like, what if we try this medication on these people that are depressed? And obviously we do that a little bit different in today's world, but they started to see some effectiveness, some notably effective results. And so they just kind of took it and ran with it. And I don't know what you guys know about this thing called the media, but what happens is the media is kind of like this hungry alligator that wants to be fed all the time. And so it's always looking for something that it can chew on and show to the world, because this is what keeps the media in business. This is what the media just wants to do. The energy of the media is what's next? It doesn't matter if it's good or bad, if it's even true or not true, if they have all the facts or not. Of course, there's some media outlets that are more responsible than others and yada, yada, yada. But ultimately, media is a system. So just like the healthcare system, just like the media system, there's an agenda, right? And a system has to look out for itself. It does look out for its patrons, but it has to look out for itself. Just like in my business, I want to take care of you guys, but I also have to look out for my bottom line. So I have to charge a certain amount of money to make things worth things, right? The media is the same. So something like this, we tried these they didn't call them antidepressants, but we tried these SSRIs that we were using for this other purpose, and we happened to use them on depressed people. And here's some results that we saw. Not thoroughly tested, but what did the media do? It came in and it ran with it. And pretty soon there was this explosion of this message to the United States of America that, depression is just a brain chemical imbalance. And don't worry, we have taken this drug and we've given it to depressed people and it's helped. And so here's your solution, America. Bing. And we're so good at believing the media and just eating, drinking the Kool-Aid. Especially 50 years ago plus, we were really good at it. Today, we're more jaded and skeptical of the media, as we probably should be. And the pharmaceutical industry, frankly. But at that time, we drank that Kool-Aid and we were like, oh, cool. So basically, we came to collectively believe that depression, and often anxiety, but specifically with depression, was a result of imbalanced brain chemicals. And it was like we needed more serotonin and dopamine. And if we could just get more of these, then we'd be good. And so magic pill, right? Now, I'm not here to say that it doesn't work, and we're going to discuss how well stuff does work, medication does work, and how much of the time and what other factors are at play. But as you can tell in the way I'm talking to you about this is outdated and frankly inflated research. If you get back to the history of the brain chemicals argument with depression, it really did a big disservice, as so much of the media tends to do with it's just so excited to share stuff. It's just so exciting, especially when it comes to science, though. Things can get really easily misinterpreted, miscommunicated. And again, typically it's for the benefit of the people selling the drugs. Hate to say it. The good news is that medication has helped people. And I want that. I want people to have help. But I also, as the postpartum coach, looking out for the long-term game of people's healing, and as you would probably want as well, we want help that is permanent and is standalone, meaning that if you were to run out of meds, would you be okay, right? We ultimately want you to be not dependent on anything for your help or your health, mentally, physically. Now, it's not always possible for some people to do that, but if that's a desire that you share, then I think you're really going to be interested in what I have to say about the brain chemical stuff. So Johan Hari is a man, he's from the UK, who had depression and anxiety, but specifically a lot of depression from his teenage years all the way up to like his mid-30s plus. And he was medicated for it. He just went through the typical medical system. And what he found in the first decade is like they worked okay, but not that great. And then about second decade on these drugs, he ended up needing to take way more of them, up the dosages. They added even more drugs into his drug diet. And pretty soon he was super medicated, starting to break down other parts of his health, right? Side effects. And all, and he was still, frankly, depressed. So he decided enough's enough, and he went on basically a world tour with one mission to really get to the root of why he was still depressed after taking all these drugs when he was told the Kool-Aid, right? He was told, well, it's just a brain chemical imbalance, simple as that, and if you take these drugs, they'll balance out your chemicals in your brain. And if they don't work, we'll just try some other ones until they do, because it's really just a brain chemical imbalance, right? Simple, straightforward. We all love to hear. It's so indulgent and alluring to hear a simple and straightforward explanation. And the good news is I have some really simple and straightforward explanations, but they're not a magic pill. But they are simple and straightforward. But this one is not it. This one never was. It's an illusion. It's counterfeit. This is counterfeit healing, right? The brain chemicals argument. So anyway, Johan Hari goes on this search, and he interviews researchers all over the world, and not just the ones who are interviewed on the news, right? And who are buying into this outdated research so that they can get their press and that they can be in good standing with the media and get more viewers and maybe more money or whatever. And I'm sure there's people with good intentions, right? But he went to the people who are doing state-of-the-art current research, the ones who are so busy in their books, they're not being interviewed, by the mainstream media. The real truth. That's what he wanted, because he had a stake in this. He was suffering, right? And what Mr. Hari, or Johan, I like that name, found is that this was so outdated, and the story, like I just told you about trying these drugs that were used for other things and just happening to maybe give them to a depressed person, like, let's just see what happens. And then there was just a little bit, just enough to be statistically significant to then take it to the news and blast the whole United States with this very misleading brain chemicals thing. He found out that A, happened a long time ago, and B, is super misleading and not the whole story. So what is the story? What role do brain chemicals have on our depression? And by the way, if you want to really continue this conversation and look at all the factors that are not true, that you're probably have been believing that are getting in the way of your actual ability to heal and that are probably distracting the energy and scattering the energy you would be putting into your postpartum healing, come join me for the boot camp. We're going to really dive into that together. It's going to be so fun. Just LizzieLangston.com/bootcamp. It'll be in the show notes, that link. Here's what he did find out. And this comes from different medical school researchers all across the US. This comes from peer-reviewed, evidence-based research. And he didn't have an agenda. His agenda was truth, whereas a lot of times research has agendas. So again, he is one man, and this is the research he claims. And so you want to make sure his book I'll put it in the show notes. It's just called Lost Connections, and you can look at all of his sources. I actually have a couple other episodes, which I will try to put in the show notes if I have enough space there too, but you can just search them on here, with my pharmacist friend and fellow coach. She's a diabetes coach, Sarah Townley, and we actually thoroughly review this book. So you can go check that out if you're interested. But here's in a nutshell what we talk about on those episodes and what he found. Johann Hari found through all this research that only about 37% of why someone would develop anxiety and depression has anything to do with biology, with your DNA and with inherited stuff and with brain chemicals. So the biology piece, the chemicals piece, okay? And out of that 37%, it has to be your genetic stuff that plays into it has to be activated by the way you're living and thinking and feeling. So environmental still plays a role. So it's not a standalone. You can't just become depressed because your mom was depressed. That's not how it works. It's not so singular and linear like that. Even though our brain really likes to make it singular and linear, we're way more dynamic and comprehensive in our development of anything than that. And so, that's what he found, is that 37% of any, out of 100% of reasons, only about 37% so just over a quarter of why you might be depressive has anything to do with biology. And even then, there's still a big interplay on the psychosocial, on how you're thinking and feeling and relating to others as well as yourself. So really, at the end of the day, you want to look way beyond just brain chemicals. And I want you to know this so that if you go into your OB's office and you have this conversation and you talk about getting on meds, you know what effectiveness you're looking at. He also has another statistic, and I can't remember, it was in the 30% range. I can't remember the exact percentage, but around 30% effectiveness of drugs. So for people that get on medications, it's about 30% of the time that people are happy and are yeah, they're working and I'm good. So that means 60 to 70% of the time, you're going to be back at square one. And then I can't remember also the percentage, but there was a percentage of people who it actually, getting on drugs actually created new problems. And honestly, that's usually when people come knocking on my door as the postpartum coach, is they either want to avoid meds, or they've tried them and it created new problems, or they tried them and they just didn't do anything, or a little bit of all of that. So if it's not brain chemicals, what is it, right? That might be what you're asking. If it's not this story we've been fed, because I sure know, I'm going to tell you just a little snippet of my personal history. When I first got anxious and depressive, I literally was so terrified and I was blindsided as all get out. I didn't even know really what anxiety was. I was a happy, mentally well person until I wasn't after my second baby, and it came out of nowhere. Super scary, definite identity crisis, definite marriage turbulence, definite questioning of my motherhood. The symptoms were super real. I was having panic attacks. I was flirting with, suicidal thoughts, not because I wanted to actually do it and kill myself. I hate saying that even out loud, but because I was so question mark. I had no idea how to even handle how I was feeling or why I was feeling the way I was. And my whole life seemed to stop. And so my first go-to, all that I knew to do was, all right, let's try meds. That's the medical system. I tried yoga. I had some Reiki done, and it was nice to have some support, but there was nothing hardy that I could sink my teeth into about it. It was just nice to know I wasn't alone. It was validating that way, but it didn't really make a difference. And so I got on antidepressants, and I remember I would take the pills each morning, and I would have this conflictedness. There'd be a part of me that was super sad. Here I am, 24, 25, 26, and I'm dependent on this little pill. I didn't want to be dependent on a pill in my 20s and 30s. I didn't want to do this for the rest of my life. Now, no shame if you are totally fine with that. I seriously don't care. Good for you. Whatever, your health is your responsibility, and it's your privilege to live it the way you'd like to. For me, it just wasn't what I wanted to do long term, but I did it. And I remember what I would tell myself through that time. And I'm actually really proud of myself. I'm proud of myself that I went to the doctor and got on meds, because that was what healing looked like for me at that time. That's the phase of it I was in. I met myself where I was, right? And I'm proud of myself for giving myself the space to do that and for allowing myself to do that. And ultimately, I just would tell myself, it's okay. It's not me. I'm not the problem. It's just that my brain has not enough serotonin and, dopamine and whatever. And I just need to take this. This is just going to balance that out. So that's how I justified it and felt better about it. And while that to some extent calmed my nervousness about being on the medicine, and there was dizziness and there was low appetite and just a couple weird things, but mostly it was fine. I did have headaches and I got really tired. The first 2 weeks was the most fatigue and headaches. And then the next 4 weeks, I still felt my depression and anxiety, but I started to get a little better. And then by 6 weeks in, it was fine. But it's not a permanent solution. And so I had my third baby and I upped my dosage under my doctor's supervision to the max dosage, actually. And after baby number 3, I was back within 4 months postpartum, 3 months postpartum, I was back struggling again. And now my medication was not an option because I'd maxed it out. And so that's what I mean when I say it's not a wise strategy. If you financially, in a financial investment portfolio, they say invest across multiple types. You want to have some gold, you want to do stocks, you want to do bonds, you want to do, all these other things. Same thing with mental health. You want to have a system that is varied. You don't want to just rely on medication, because then when you go to have another baby, or then when, something else traumatic happens in some other part of your life, there's no guarantee. And so you're back at square one. So I like to say, when you're in square one, do square one. When in Rome, just get it done. When it comes to mental health, get to the root of it. And that's what I'm going to teach you in this boot camp, by the way. In the 3-day boot camp, we're going to be learning what is the root? Why do these symptoms come up? And what can you do about them? We're going to get you the first couple steps in that momentum building on what you can do about them. But basically what Johann Hari found was that there are 9 actual causes of depression, and only 2 of those 9 have anything, again, to do with brain chemicals and biology, right? So 7 out of 9 reasons were actually completely unrelated to anything medical, chemical, biological. It was all environmental, social, psychosocial, how you're thinking and feeling and how you're interacting with others. In a nutshell, in other words, how connected are you to yourself? And therefore, how connected are you to your job, to your sense of purpose and fulfillment? How connected are you to your motherhood and your sense of fulfillment in motherhood? How connected are you to other people, to love? How connected are you to your body, right? And so I've taken Johann Hari's research and I've honed in on the foundation to all of the connections that he discovered, the 7 other connections besides the medical ones, which is the connection to yourself. And a lot of times when you regulate and you create and recover a connection to yourself, which in my process, we do that through inner child work and removing stored up trauma in your body. We do it through learning how to connect to your body and move and dance and actually meditate and feel your body and be in it and rekindle desire, sexuality, stuff like that. And also connection to your mind and to your thinking, being aware of your stream of thought and being an observer of your mind. And so when you do all those things, you create this connection to yourself, which then connects you to everything that is, including your relationships. Let me say that again. Your connection to others and to everything that is, to anything in your life, can only go as far as your connection to yourself, can only be as deep as your connection to yourself. This is why people who have no relationship with themselves fall in love, get married, and then have marital issues. They cheat on someone or they are cheated on, because you can only connect to your partner as deeply as you're connected to yourself. And you can only connect to healing and your health and your mental health to the extent that you are connected to yourself, to your body, to your symptoms. So if you want to do a deep dive into connection with yourself, we're going to do that over the course of 3 days, 90 minutes a day live calls. I can't even wait to blow your mind and also totally support you, answer your questions. You know, we're going to have a workbook. We're going to coach. We're going to get you so taken care of. And it's just not even that much money. So just go to LizzieLangston.com/bootcamp. Get registered, get paid up when the link is live. And I'll see you on November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Otherwise, I'll see you right here next week. Take care, you guys. Talk soon. Hi, my darling friend. Lizzie here. If you love the content here on my podcast, then you need to check out the Postpartum Coach membership. My membership is where you can bridge the gap between listening and understanding healing postpartum on a logical level and then applying it and feeling change. That's what we do in the membership. The most valuable tool that I have for you in my membership by far is the Postpartum Anxiety course. It's my course where I walk you through my 3-part postpartum healing process. You can watch or listen to the course. I made it for moms, digestible and to the point. Then you've got a private podcast, a members-only Facebook community, as well as the trifecta of postpartum healing: weekly coaching, meditation, and yoga. You do not want to miss my membership if you are postpartum and are serious about healing. So go to LizzieLangston.com/membership today and step into your healing. That's LizzieLangston.com/membership. I'll see you inside, my love.